Actors are like superheroes.
Hear me out, geez. Just let me explain what I mean before you jump down my throat. Okay, example. 1. We wear costumes, just like superheroes. 2. We have a public persona and a private persona, just like superheroes. Meaning that we often have to hide our true identity from the world. Leading dual lives? Starting to sound familiar? We're often called into work at a moment's notice, so we have to always be prepared to spring into action. Actors and superheroes often have to work under intense pressure, while the burning white-hot spotlight of public scrutiny shines down upon us. Actors have to have special powers, training, and skills suitable for the high-stakes entertainment situations that we may find ourselves in. Some of us have a massive fan following. I mean, not me, obviously, but some do. Just like superheroes. We make a cultural impact by inspiring the masses to follow our example on how to be flawless human beings. Some of us play superheroes. I played Iron Fist once in a video game. Some of us even have sidekicks. Speaking of which, where is Jay this week? We also regularly save humanity from all sorts by providing top-notch entertainment at bargain rate prices. But what happens when a superhero or an actor, remember they're essentially the same thing now, so I'm using the term interchangeably. What happens when they become a parent? Well, I guess the party's over. No more saving people from the baddies of the world, or donning our capes and flying off to an important casting at a moment's notice. Nope, it's game over. Once you are a parent, you can no longer be an actor. It's in the rule book. Look it up. Or wait a minute, can you? Being a parent is a challenge for anyone, of course. But when you are an actor who needs to be flexible, available, and are essentially working freelance without a steady source of income, how do you get it done? Now, we have spoken to a lot of parent actors on our program, but here in this episode, we are talking to Cassie Raine, co-founder and CEO of Parents and Carers in Performing Arts, or PiPA for short. PiPA is a charitable organization that works tirelessly to bring forth mandates, proposals, clarity, and dialogue to the entertainment industry so that working actors, who are also parents, can continue to work and raise their families within a caring and supportive industry that understands the job they do. So here's to all the parents out there and everything you do to raise your children right, because there's nothing more heroic than that. All right, we're just going to go for it. We're just going to have fun. 3, 2, 1, time to have fun. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, actors of all ages. Welcome to the Offstage Acting Podcast. I am your host, Todd Kramer. Our friend Jay is off on some adventure he'll tell us about next time. But we're glad to have you with us. It's just going to be myself and my very special guest here on the Offstage Acting Podcast. Welcome. Now, for those of you actors out there who are aspiring, you're probably a little young and you're focused solely on your career, which is fair enough. But as you get older, you might want to start a family, quote unquote. Family means having kids. I started off as a young actor, no family, just out on my own. A lot of freedom when you're an actor, on your own. Nothing to hold you back. There's nothing to slow you down. No real responsibilities. However, for myself, about 12 years ago, I had my first child. And as a working actor, I started to understand very quickly, because of the nature of my work as well, that it was going to be a little bit more difficult to raise a family and live this kind of lifestyle that actors have, which means you have to be available and you have to live in non-social hours and work non-social hours. And that's going to be a challenge, which I hadn't quite considered before. My wife at the time was working a proper job, as they say. And so when you have one partner that's working a proper job that has a steady income and the other partner that's freelance, ad hoc income, the tendency is that the weight of that responsibility of running the household and being with the kids and managing all the things that go along with it, school pickups and feedings and nap times and whatever else, all that sort of falls onto the shoulders of the partner who is freelance. Happened to me, and at that time, I started to hear some rumors from friends and things about an organization that was kicking off called Parents in Performing Arts. And it was, from what I understood, a couple of women actors, theater people that had this experience and were trying to make some changes. So why am I telling you all of this? It's not just random. We have a guest today that I'm very thrilled to have, actually, because I've known of her for over a decade, I think, and about their work, and joined, in a sense, their newsletter and became a member for a while. I don't remember what that entailed, but she'll tell us. Anyway, super thrilled to have her with us. She's a representative of PiPA, Parents in Performing Arts. Her name is Cassie Raine. I want to introduce you to her because she's not just running PiPA, the CEO thereof, but she, or CEO, she's also an actor. And I'm going to share with you, as we do on the show, and this is where Cassie gets to cringe a bit, possibly. I'm going to share with you her show reel. For fun. Here we go. Cassie Raine, show reel.
The purpose of this inquest is to
Todd,
establish
move it
the
over.
identity of the deceased, the cause of death, how it happened, when and where it happened. I must make it clear, it is not for this inquest to question why the death occurred. We have heard from Mr. Wright, the pathologist, that Roxanne Mitchell had cocaine in her body, but not at levels which would have proved fatal. Whilst I have no doubt that it contributed to her death, the prima facie cause of Roxanne Mitchell's death was the cardiac arrest which resulted in her drowning. The cause of Veronica Mitchell's death has been established as drowning. There is no evidence of a third-party involvement in these deaths. Therefore, a ruling of misadventure is appropriate in these circumstances.
Not easy to play these kind of parts.
Misadventure? What's that mean exactly?
Yeah,
Oh my
what does that
God.
mean?
There's something wrong, isn't there? Something terribly wrong. That's what you meant. That's what's changed. That's why you asked if I missed you. That's why you wanted me to be serious. It is serious. Oh my God, tell me I'm wrong. Please, tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I am?
Yes.
Then why did you let me go on believing it? How could you?
I didn't.
You said you were ill.
No, I didn't.
You didn't say you weren't.
I didn't say anything.
Isn't that worse?
No.
Ellen, I haven't finished. Look at me. You're bored. Is that why you gave up dancing?
I gave up because I'm not good enough.
Rubbish! Look at all the trophies on your shelf.
I'm always going to be the dead one.
So it's better to give up.
It's too hard, Mum. Acting like a hero version of myself, never quite getting people names, saying yes, but I don't even know what I'd be asked to do. That's why I'm going to London.
Drama.
You know how much Jo wants a baby. Did you know she's even picked out names? James if
Doctors,
it's a boy
BBC.
and Hannah if it's a girl.
It's only natural, especially after...
Hysterectomy. I'm so fed up of hearing about that. I know it must have been terrible. Horrible. She doesn't talk about it much. She doesn't really talk about it at all, but she has nightmares. She wakes up crying and screaming. Afterwards, she pretends they're about something else. And I go along with it because I know she doesn't want me to worry.
That must be hard for you.
I just wish she'd stop trying to be so strong all the time and let me help her. It makes me feel so...
Helpless.
useless.
Cassie Raine. All right, now I got one more clip, and it's a little bit more of a surprise. Now, this is just, bear with me. Very short clip. This is about PiPA. It's an early
Jen Aniston said
video.
once that
Whoa, what was that?
she said that when you guys were doing Friends that
Oh, we don't need that. Okay.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm an actress and one of the co-founders of Parents in Performing Arts. We set up the organisation
Kathy
earlier
with her
this
kids.
year to
Cassie.
raise awareness of some of the challenges facing parents working in our industry. We had an amazing launch in October at the Young Vic. Over 400 people with 70 babies and toddlers managed to attend. We heard stories from stage managers, choreographers, producers, actors, directors, cinematographers, everybody. There is nobody in this sector that this issue does not affect. Over the next 6 months, we want to set up as a charity. We want to hold 2 or 3 open space meetings. It's a camera. Across the UK, this
Keep
is
in
a
mind, this is
regional
8 years
issue.
ago.
It's a national issue. And we want to hear from you. We want to know what
Or
your
more.
experiences are. We want to know what best practice is going on, what's out there already, what we can adapt, what we can adopt. We need you to help us shape this campaign. And in order to do that, we need resources. So whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's testimonials, please give and help in whichever way you can. We can't pretend they're not there, so our industry shouldn't either. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. There's some words there. You'll have to read those on your own. Let me bring her in. There she is. Cassie, welcome to the show.
Hello.
How
Hi.
are you? First of all, I love the fact that in that video, you had your kids with you and just like in your kitchen.
I mean, they live with me. They're there every day.
Yeah. But just like the kind of the rawness of that, and saying like, this is how it works when you're a parent, and your kids are there all the time.
Oh yeah, I think you can't hide them. I think that's the point about kids. You can't hide them. You can't
Right.
pretend they're not there. Exactly what I said.
Turn it off.
So, Cassie, talk about the acting stuff, first of all. Like, how did we get to this place where it became important to you to bring this out into the open, have this be part of the conversation, make changes, disrupt?
I think disrupt. I'm probably a natural. I was probably born a disruptor. To be honest.
Yeah.
But how we got here, I think. So my mum was very liberal, and she had brought me up to always believe that I was equal, and so I really didn't see this coming. But basically, what happened when I had kids is that I suddenly found that I couldn't, that kind of doors were closed to me, that I was at home and my husband at the time was freelance. I mean, he still is freelance, but he was out to work all the time. So then I was at home with the kids, and it was incredibly difficult. So up until that point, I'd been an actor for, like you were saying, for 15 years, and with no responsibilities. I
Right.
had been able to be as responsive as the industry needs you to be,
Right.
or as it asks you to be. Whether it needs you to be that responsive is another question. But I had been able and willing to drop everything at the last minute. Always, I was never happy to hear from anybody else apart from my agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was that call, that would determine what I would do for the next 24, 48 hours. And I loved it. And I got it was frustrating sometimes, and it was exhausting, but the job I actually got before I had my first daughter, I never forget. I think it was the first week of December, and it was a call from Bill Kenwright, the producer. It was a call from his office saying, "We've got a tour next year. It's on for a year.
Right.
Rehearsing from the third week of December. This is the first week of December. Will you come and read for it?" So I went. I read for it. I got the part. Within 3 weeks, I was rehearsing, and within like 6 weeks, I was gone. I was
Right.
gone for a year. I'd just taken on a new lease for a flat, but I
Wow.
left it all. But I was kind of happy to do that. I was happy to do that, and because it's, it was my job. It was, it was my
Yeah.
only passion really at the time. In terms of commercials or TV, I didn't think anything of, we want you to come and read for this role for Casualty. It's like for a year. Here's 20 sides. Can you be off book in like 2
Yeah.
days? We're going to
Yeah.
record. I was like, yeah, sure, I'm in it. And then I would drop it all to do that. And I loved that. I loved that. I loved that kind of immersive, getting involved with the character, and I just, that was how I lived. And then when I was on tour, so with this Bill Kenwright job, I was on tour,
Right.
and I'd been with my partner for a couple of years, and then I got pregnant when I was on the tour, and the wardrobe mistress, Amanda, she was amazing, and she just let out my skirt as I got bigger and
Right.
bigger and bigger.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks as I got
Yeah.
bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was absolutely fine. I didn't really think anything of it.
Yeah.
One of my co-stars was pregnant at the same time, so it felt like a
Okay.
really kind of happy thing.
Yeah.
And then I came off the show. By that time, I was 5 months pregnant,
Right.
and so I was 5 months pregnant, and then I came off the show, and I told my agent, and I thought, well, I can do like a few. I can do certain castings. I can still work. I still had a long time to go, and then I just didn't get any calls. Didn't get any calls, and I
Right.
was like, oh, so now I'm pregnant and out of work.
Yeah.
And they were just, and it literally just kind of dried up from one day to the next. And
Was that, do you
so-
think, because it started to become known that you were pregnant? Your agent was telling, or had to mention? Or when you were going into castings,
know.
it was just like you'd get in and it was clear?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't even really going in for castings. I think my agent at the time, they said, I remember when I went off, I said, well, I'll be back in a few months, and she said to me, yeah, but you won't.
Yeah, right.
They won't ever come back.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, but I will. I'm just gonna have a baby. I'm not gonna die. I'm just gonna have a baby,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna come back. She's like, oh, they never do. And I was like, oh, okay,
goodness.
well, that's not me. So I'm gonna be back.
Now, can I ask, how old were you when this is all happening?
So I was 36.
Okay. So you had
36, yeah.
pretty well established already in the game, I
Well,
assume, right?
I thought I was pretty well established, and you know, the tour that I was on at the time, it was a #1 tour. It was a good part, and I'd done a lot of kind of bits and pieces, but I'd made a living out of being a performer for, you know,
15
a long
years.
time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just remember when I was on tour just thinking, well, now's as good a time as any. And let's face it, you know, I'm edging towards that, you know, my late 30s. And so I realized that that was the time. And I sort of felt secure enough in that role, and not just in that role, but in my kind of track record, that that was a good time to get pregnant, and that I wouldn't have any problems getting back to it. But to be honest, I hadn't really ever thought about it. Somebody had come to my drama school. I went to Drama Centre London. Someone had come to my drama school, you know, I don't know, years earlier, and had talked to us about having children. And I remember at the time just going, that's not me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna like hop out of here and like be really successful and just work nonstop. So
Right.
I don't need to think about that. And then sure enough, you know, by the time I was 37, you know, there it was.
Facing you down, yeah.
Facing me down. And
was there any part of you that was thinking it'll handle itself, or nannies are the answer, or I'll be so rich that I'll just have the kid, like, or was there any, or was it just a naive young girl sitting there being told, there are obstacles in the future, and you just kind of denying and going, well.
I think when I was at drama school, it was that.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit of naivety, but it was also a bit of that, just like laser focus. I mean, at the time, I don't even think I even wanted a family. I'd never even really thought about it. It wasn't like all I wanted to do was be an actor.
Way distant down the road, if anything.
Way down the road.
Yeah.
You know, like the rest of my life, way down the road. And it just, you know, I was doing 3 hours of ballet a day. I was doing singing lessons. I was acting. There's no time for this. Yeah.
It's interesting too, because they throw a lot of obstacles at you in drama school, don't they? Or they throw up some immediate hurdles by saying things like, you know, only 5% of you are, you know, look to the left, look to the right. Most of you aren't going to make it. Only 5%. And your job sort of at that level is to be like, nah, ain't going to be me, like you just said, right? Yeah, that's for these guys, but I'm going the distance. I'm running the marathon here. I don't know, as you were saying this, I'm thinking, nobody came to me as a boy, right, as a male, and said, you're going to have kids someday and it's going to be more difficult. So that's interesting to me too.
Yeah, I mean, I think in amongst all of, you know, you talk about the obstacles that they throw at you, and that's a kind of unknown obstacle, and it's one that you're not immediately concerned with. I remember being told, you know, when you're at drama school, this is the greatest work you're ever going to do. And I remember another teacher saying, our teacher had been on Brookside, and everyone in the class was like, oh, Brookside. And then she was like, guys, you'll be so lucky.
Right.
Like, you know, this is the reality. So the reality of being an actor, that was the downside of it. There wasn't another reality to being an actor that involved you as a human being.
Right.
And your kind of life goals and your well-being or anything like that. That was your kind of major obstacle. And certainly for guys, I mean, this was a young mother who'd come to talk to us.
Really?
It certainly wasn't a young father.
Right, of course, yeah. But I mean, she had been an actress, I guess, as well, or was.
Yeah.
And was kind of just a little reality check. Was that?
I think it was part of preparing you for the industry.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I mean, but there's lots of stuff. It's hard to get through, right, to people in drama school. It was hard to get through to me. And I didn't feel in any way prepared for the reality of of being an actor. I mean, I don't even think I really knew how to audition when I came out of drama school.
Sure.
I was just maybe once told that I had a lot of potential, and I took that and I ran with it, and that was my fuel for everything. and everything else was kind of hard to hear. Hard to land.
No real insight into the industry, how things work, what's expected, what you're meant to do once you get the job. None of that stuff is really ever taught. And then particularly having access to experienced actors. I mean, that's part of the reason I created the Offstage Acting Project, was to have these conversations now for younger actors, so they recognize that, there's a life that goes along with the work and the passion for, this craft, this art form, and wanting to be this artist. But you also have to balance what everybody else has to balance, which is just day-to-day life.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I loved my drama school, and it really was, it was an incredibly enriching experience. And we did have mentors. We did have mentors who, actors alumni who had been to the same school as us, who we were kind of paired with, and we saw them, I don't know, like once every term or something like that, when we were in our third year of drama school. So there was a bit of it. I mean, it was a long time since I was in drama school, but so maybe there's more of that now. And that's before you even get to like the business of being an actor, the accountants and all that hard reality stuff. Yeah.
Taxes. So let's go back for Cassie. When did you kind of start acting? How old were you?
So I started acting when I went to drama school when I was 24.
Wow.
Do you mean when I went to drama school, or do you mean like before?
I mean kind of like the first the panto at school. When did you kind of get the bug?
So I went to
going all the way back now. Yeah.
All the way back.
Yeah.
So I first got the bug in Mr. Khan's newsagents in Bristol. That's where I first got the bug.
Right.
So I must have been, like 14, something like that.
Yeah.
I went to a school that didn't have a great deal of resources, and there was no like drama school for me.
Yeah.
Or classes.
Where'd you grow up?
In Bristol.
Oh, in Bristol. Okay.
Yeah, in Bristol, sort of Torredown, Knoll area.
Yeah, a little rough there. Can be a little rough. Yeah.
Can be a little rough there. And so, but I got this Saturday job at Mr. Khan's.
All right.
And I was paid, I don't know, 80 pence an hour
tuppence.
or something. Right. Yeah, exactly. But I was young.
And all the newspapers you could read.
All the newspapers you could read. But then there was this newspaper called The Stage. And I first discovered it in Mr. Khan's. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And I'd never seen or heard or read anything like it. And I hadn't even like done my GCSEs by then.
Right.
So I hadn't even had the kind of drama option. We'd done a little bit at school, but I had no idea of this like world out there.
Yeah.
And then so it all started with the Stage for me. And then I used to buy the Stage. I used to read it in the shop, and then when I'd earned enough money, I'd buy it, and then I'd order it, and then it would come in. I'd go and pick it up, and it was a whole like ritual for me.
Yeah.
And it was really like my world outside my world a bit.
Yeah.
And then I did my GCSEs. Yeah, it was my escape, because my reality, there was no
art.
There was no art. There was no art.
No art around,
But there was a music department at the school. I played the violin, and then I did media studies, mostly because it was a skive, but also because it was easy. It was easy, so I did that.
Grade,
And then as soon as I could, I went to Bath to do my A-levels. I got out of Bristol. I went to Bath to do my A-levels, and I did drama A-level in Bath. And then I went to my first play, and it was Peter Brook's version of Midsummer Night's Dream at the National Theatre in London.
Wow.
And I had never been to the theatre before.
Yeah.
And I turned up. Oh my gosh. It was in the round. It was
Yeah,
in the
oh.
round, and it was muddy. The whole thing. It was like
Right. So like a proper experience, Shakespearean experience.
it was Shakespeare. It was muddy, and then
Yeah.
also Puck was kind of on a trapeze. It was all trapeze and
wow.
silks and all that. And
Okay.
I just sat there like this girl from Bristol who'd never
Yeah.
seen anything like it.
A
And I was,
groundling standing in the mud. Yeah.
it
Like
was
just
incredible.
in awe. Yeah. That's a great first way to see a play.
Yeah, I mean, and I must have been like 17.
Yeah.
You know, I had a fair amount of life under my belt,
Right.
but it did not include this.
All right.
And this just looked like so much fun. So then I did that. And
So when did you
then-
kind of just say, all right, I'm the bug has bit me. I want to study this thing, or this is what I want to do.
It was still a bit roundabout, because I really had it in my head that it wasn't a career choice.
Right.
Like, it wasn't an option for me.
Right.
You couldn't make money doing it.
Yeah.
It was really hard. It was just not for me.
Yeah.
And
You'd
I
have
went
to come
into-
to London. You'd have to.
Well, it was just not a career path from like where I came from.
Nobody around you doing it. No examples. Yeah.
No examples, no nothing. But
No
then
encouragement.
I got a job in film PR,
Okay.
and through that I started to meet actors, and then I became friends with an actor, and then I was like, oh my God, they're all here. Like, and it got to the point where I was like, I just have to do it. I've always wanted to do this. I'm gonna do it. I want to do it. And I went to so I decided to audition. I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna audition. I'm gonna audition for every drama school that there is.
All right.
And I went to my first one, which was the drama centre. And I remember saying to my mum, what should I wear? Like,
Yeah.
I had no experience,
Yeah.
no clue. She was like, wear what makes you feel confident. So I was like, all right, wear
Okay.
what makes you
Good
feel confident.
advice. Yeah.
I had like these 3-inch snakeskin boots, 3-inch heel snakeskin boots. I was like, I'll wear those. So I was at the drama centre waiting for my audition. Everyone's like in trainers and baggy trousers and like looking cool, and I'm there like with a newspaper in my heels, just looking like I didn't know what I was doing. And then of course I got onto the audition at drama centre, and I was so nervous I couldn't stand up in my heels. So they were like, do you want to take those off? And I said,
So much
yeah,
for the
I will, yeah.
confidence.
I will. So I took them off. I left them on the side. I did my piece, and they were like, "Oh my God, that was terrible." And it was Edward Albee, Three Tall Women,
All
and
right.
he said to me, it was Christopher Fettis at the time, and he said to me, he said, "Do it again, but do it with an American accent." And I said, "I don't know an American accent." And he was like, "Yes, you do. You've seen them on telly. Just do it." I was like, I've never done an American accent. I can't do it. And he was like, just do it. I was like, okay. So I did it. I did every American accent from East to West Coast and back again.
Right, whatever
like
you
in
thought
no
it was,
particular
right.
order, yeah. And then I got through it, and then I had an interview with them. It was the bizarrest interview I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And then I had a bit of back and forth with them. And then I was like, I don't even care if I don't get in. That was quite fun. And then a couple of days later, I got a letter saying, you're in.
Wow.
You're in. You got in. And it was such a terrifying experience. I wrote to all the other drama schools, made up some horrendous excuse saying that I couldn't do the auditions, got my money back, and went to drama centre.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the rest is history. I mean, I was pretty terrible for a couple of years whilst I was like learning how to be an actor.
Yeah.
And then it was in the third year, really, with the productions and in technical rehearsals, where I was like, oh my God, this is like magic. It just kind of landed.
Mm.
And I think up until that point, everyone was a bit nervous. But then in the third year, it came together. And
What do you think
then-
they saw in you on that first snakeskin boots day?
tenacity,
Yeah.
bloody mindedness, and like guts, courage.
Yeah.
It took a lot of courage to do that. That girl who didn't know what she was doing to like that leap of faith.
And never really done anything before. Most of the other kids had shown up probably with plenty of experience. Also, youth on their side. You were probably one of the oldest they'd seen, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I must have been like 24.
Yeah.
Something like that. 23, 24.
The rest of them are coming in as teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And here you come trotting on the stage, literally.
They've probably just never seen anything like it.
Yeah. It's tromping on the boards, as it were, in the snakeskin boots that you couldn't even. So much for the confidence, huh? Actually, I take it back. These things don't give me confidence.
Yeah. I don't know whether they did or not. I'll always remember them.
They saw something in you. Whatever it was, they saw it. It was magic.
Yeah, they saw. And then I think like throughout drama school, they saw, there were glimpses of it. Yeah. They always had this, have this phrase, which is leave yourself alone, which I never really understood. I understand it now.
Yeah.
But when I was able to do that, for whatever reason, usually it was because I was hungover or ill or just like caught unawares somehow.
Yeah.
Like I was able to leave myself alone. And when I could do that, then I was just in another kind of world, and that's where you need to be. Yeah.
So you did some good work there. Memorable performances? What was your memorable
performances?
You do some good shows?
Yeah, I did some good shows. I did All's Well That Ends Well. I was in Three Birds Alighting on a Field. That's what it is. Three birds alighting on a field.
Yes, I think that's right. At this point, are you sort of discovering what your kind of type is?
Type?
Yeah. Were you getting...
I mean, I was once told that I was 10 a penny, so I guess that was my type.
Wow. Well, hey.
I mean, at the time, it was, well, like it was Juliet. It was like the young kind of...
The ingenue.
Yeah, it was all of that.
A lot of drama, though. I saw the show reel's kind of drama.
Well, what was weird was that when I started working, I don't think there was, certainly in the first little while, there wasn't one job I didn't do where I didn't end up in like prosthetics of some description.
Really? Okay.
Like some sort of battered, like face, like swollen or,
hard-edged kind of girl. Is that the deal?
Kind of vulnerable, slightly
down.
Messed up.
Yeah.
Like wrong side of the tracks, kind of just got it all a bit wrong. That was what I played at first.
Okay.
And I really, I was in Casualty for a long time.
Yeah.
And that character was a recurring character. It wasn't a regular, it was a recurring character. And she was great. Like she'd been, had an abusive relationship, but then ended up working as a cleaner in the hospital and kind of going out with a paramedic. And so it was high drama and it was good. It was all good fun to play.
Yeah.
And but then that changes, and it changes almost imperceptibly. For me, it was actually a bit more noticeable because I took a year out and I went to live in Africa for a year to work for a theatre company, just kind of helping them.
Right.
And when I came back, I'd seemed to have got into a new kind of casting bracket, and it was a lot of Vanish commercials, like cleaning products, like domestic products, and all of that. Kind of thing.
You ended up on the mom tip.
So I ended up on the mum tip, but for me, I was like, guys, no, this isn't me. I know and
there's a reason I was asking about that, because there's this kind of shift that happens for all of us from 20s into 30s where you don't even realize it's happening, but the stuff you're being seen for.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm I'm a bit of an older gentleman myself, but I'm starting to go out for like arthritis commercials and hearing aids, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I ain't that old, man. What are you doing? What are you talking about? My agent's like, yeah, I got one for you. Arthritis cream. You go, what? I know I got a little gray in the temple, but anyway. So, but the industry starts to kind of tell you, like, oh, this is who you are and how you look and how we perceive you. And you kind of got to go with it.
Yeah.
So you did so you went to Africa with a theater company.
With a theatre company.
Well, that's
so I
cool.
went. So it was. I was just volunteering for a theatre company called Theatre for a Change,
All right.
and they're an amazing theatre company, and they use theatre as a way of raising awareness of HIV and kind of trying to get people to really through body language and improve their communication
Expression,
around
yeah.
exactly all of that kind of thing. So
open
that
themselves
was,
up, make themselves vulnerable.
but also be able to kind of assert for their rights, their kind of gender and sexual rights,
Right.
and that kind of thing. So it was great. I just needed a break.
Yeah.
I just needed a break. So I went and did that, and
Is that after Casualty?
Yes.
How many years were you on Casualty?
I think it was a year. It was like less than a year. It was just, it was.
Yeah, but it's nonstop, that, right?
Yeah. And then I came back from that, and then it was really when I came back from there, and that's when I found myself in a different casting bracket, and that's when it became a bit tougher. It became a bit tougher, and I'd gone from
tougher because you didn't want it, or because it's competition?
I think tougher because there were fewer roles. Like I was like 30, 34-ish.
Right. Wow.
But before I went, I was being seen for kind of characters in their early 40s who had a hard time, but were still quite youthful, that kind of thing. But now I was being seen for kind of older characters, and there just weren't as many of them. Right. And also I'd had a career gap.
Right.
I'd had a career gap of a year.
Momentum, yeah.
So I'd lost that momentum, and so I'd had that career gap. So it was hard to get back in, and I also wasn't sure whether I wanted to do it. And I came back, and like within days of coming back, someone said, "Oh, will you come and audition for this?" And I went, "No, I'm not going to do it." And they were like, "Will you just come and audition? If you audition, you don't have to accept it if you get it." I was like, "All right, fine, I'll audition." And then I got the job, a theatre job. It was just a kind of slight specific thing. And then I got the job, and I said, I don't really want to do it. And they were like, "Oh my God, just do the job already." So I did the job, kind of against my will, but it was very fun. It was a really fun job. And on that job, I met my husband, who is a sound technician.
All right. I was wondering when he got into the picture.
So that's when he got into the picture. So he was
and
a sound
ruined
technician.
Everything.
Well,
no, because now we're gonna move into the whole
Now we're gonna move into the whole
the
kids
shift.
bit.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But also, I was kind of feral after being in Africa for a year.
Yeah.
I was kind of feral.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
needed to be settled down a bit.
Well, I was kind of ready to be settled down. I'd been, completely, I'd just been traveling all around Malawi at the time. And so I was ready to, I was a bit more receptive to the idea of being settled.
Yeah.
And then, so I did this job, and then I got a new agent, and it wasn't against my will, obviously, that I got an agent.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in my plan. But then I got this agent. I was like, oh, okay. And then I started working. And then I actually really started working. I did a lot of commercials. I did a bits of TV. I did bits of all sorts. And then I did this this tour. And that's when I got pregnant.
Got pregnant.
And I didn't plan for it. I didn't see it coming. It was literally, it's different for everyone, isn't it? I just woke up one morning and I was like, oh, what is that? I was like, God, I think I want to have a family. Like, it was, for me, it was out of the blue.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. And then because I'd been in this kind of great company and had some really good role models, and I just thought, yeah, why not?
Should be easy peasy.
Easy, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
do it, pop one out, and then just crack
You
on.
pop it out and be back on the stage in hours. On in time. The show must go on.
Yeah.
And I'll be there for opening, of course. Yeah, I think I've had a few conversations with actors, family people. Most of them, well, obviously the veteran ones for the most part. And I always bring it up. I always bring it up as a topic and try to highlight it because it's so, I think, vital to the understanding of, if you're a career actor, having a life that is genuine and feels genuine, because the career is ingenuous compared to everyone else, right? Everything for us is reversed and different and opposite. But family, home life, pretty much the same. So how do you balance that? How do you mitigate the kind of ferocious differences in an actor's career, an actor's lifestyle, with the simplicity of just wanting to be a homebody and have a family and, work a 9-to-5 job and be on a child's schedule, as it were. So as you heard me talk in the beginning, I discovered, I think a friend had posted something, and it came for me at the very kind of right time. And I didn't, you don't remember me, but I think I threw a lot of support at you guys when you were going. Did I get the dates right? When did you start? When did that?
So we started. So my daughter, your
My
child
oldest is 12.
Is 12.
12 and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been right around that time. And
Right.
we started PiPA, yeah, eight years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
8 years ago. So it was. And now I know that you're a lifelong supporter. I'm going to go back through my emails.
Check it.
Yeah.
There was, I don't remember what it was. There was some way to be like a member, certainly a newsletter that I'd signed up for.
Yeah, there has always been a newsletter, and in the early days, it took us a while to kind of figure out like what it was going to look like and how we were going to do it. And we had a couple of events. We had a kind of a big event at the Young Vic, which was the first event, and that was was really the kickoff, because we'd gone to Equity.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I was at the National Theatre, and we went to Equity, and I don't know if you've ever been to their offices, but they used to have a room with a huge board table.
Yeah.
And I went there with my child and Anna, my business partner, with her daughter, and the children were just roaming around, crawling on the board table. And we said, look, this is really hard. And we have relative privilege. For others, this has got to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
For us, it's a nightmare. We think that this is a real issue in the industry. And they were like, okay, well, and Equity gave us £2,000, and they were like, go have an event. Go see, talk to people, find out.
Yeah.
And see if it is.
A lot of people turned up for that, didn't they?
Yeah. So we had 400 people and 70 babies.
Yeah.
We could not believe it. Not least because I was doing a show down at the National Theatre studio.
Yeah.
So I could only pop down in my lunch hour. So I wasn't even there on the day.
Right.
But
I remember that event being advertised and everything. I couldn't go myself either, but I was kind of watching it on the newsletter, and surprised that so many, oh my God. It was good feeling, I guess, not to feel alone, right?
Well, yeah, because up until that point, so I was still working as an actor, but I was finding it hard. So I was still being uber responsive. Like, commercial
Right.
casting tomorrow, Oxford Circus, double buggy. Let's go. I can do this.
Really? Take the
And
kids?
I take the kids. So I would take the kids like wherever I go. I did
Wow.
I did an audition once, giving birth. The actual audition, that was the audition, was giving birth. And I had my crying baby on my lap at the same time.
Oh my God.
I imagine.
Wow. And before and after.
Yeah, all
I
at the
came
same
with my
time.
own prop, yeah. I brought my own. You
Yeah.
didn't have to do that. No, I really want the part. Wow.
So
Where were
I
you
was-
living at the time, if I can ask? What, like in London, or were you
Yeah, I
just
was in London.
in London?
I was
okay.
in London, so I was in South London.
Mhm.
Always in South London. But I
Having
was
to
still.
schlep up to Oxford Circus with 2 kids on the tube.
Oh my God, the double buggy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there were some scenes,
Oh.
and sometimes, sometimes people were helpful, sometimes they weren't helpful. Sometimes it was fine to have my baby in the makeup truck. Sometimes it was fine. Sometimes people would hold her
Yeah.
while I was like doing a scene. Other times they were like, no, you can't bring your baby in here.
Yeah.
We're going to shoot in this school all day. Your baby can't come in anywhere. So you need somebody to walk around the streets with your baby that you're breastfeeding. So,
wow.
but I was still, I was still doing it. And and also I was working quite a lot. So it was kind of exciting.
Right.
But it was also exhausting. And it was, I think, taking a toll on me now, that when I look back, that probably did quite a lot of damage. And I didn't realize, because I was just stressed out of
And
my
exhausted.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel your work slipping at all? And I mean, not just the performance, but in general, the entirety of the work, the preparation and
I wasn't able to prepare
yeah.
In the same way. I didn't have the same, you don't have the same sort of space, you don't have the same mental space.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
That you had before. And it's very difficult, like you were saying, if you've got one partner who is earning a regular wage. My partner is freelance, but he was, earning a much more regular. Yeah, exactly. So he was working every day.
Yeah.
And that will always take precedent, always.
Yeah. It's just the natural way of it, because you're home until you're not.
Yeah.
But if you're home, then you're the one that, it's the same. You're the one that takes out the rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
I remember having self-tapes even back in those days. This, again, 10 years ago, there was a few self-tapes being bandied about, and I was the dad. I was the Mr. Mom, stay home dad. And I was doing pretty well with my career, even after the baby had been born, my daughter, but certainly before, everything was going great. Then after, I started to really slip, and I remember praying that I could get my daughter down for a nap, which she would take sometimes only a 30-minute nap. And in that 30 minutes, having to grab my computer, sit down, go over some dialogue that I hadn't had any chance before to prepare, and then somehow bang out very quickly without waking her up this self-tape, which was just god-awful in the end. And there was nobody sympathetic to that. There's nobody I could apologize to. And then shoot these things off and thinking, ooh, is this going to start slipping away? And I remind my daughter of that story almost every day. No, I'm just kidding. I make sure they know that the reason I'm not as successful as I am is because of the sacrifices I made as a father. But, I think that's fair.
Because you didn't sleep
Because
enough.
you wouldn't sleep. Daddy is an unsuccessful actor. My dreams have gone unfulfilled. And I then push them into a career of acting, which they don't want, but they have to No, I'm just kidding. That's all jokes, by the way.
But it's an interesting idea when you think about it like that, because I don't know what happened. Self-tapes for me, yes, there was never enough time to prepare. I work really well with the director. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
work really well with other people. If you
Mm.
just ask me what I think, it's usually nonsense. Like, and as an actor, if you just tell me to like work on something on my own, it's gonna be rubbish.
Mm.
But what
Right.
I can do with a director is completely different.
I agree.
And for me, self-tapes, I don't know, they're hard, they're a bit soulless,
Yeah,
and
yeah. The
when
only
you
thing convenient about a self-tape is that you don't have to schlep all the way into London
yeah,
or into the center of London.
yeah.
But apart from that, I'm with you on that. I mean, we could have a whole separate conversation about self-tapes because I'm an in-the-room guy.
In the room, guy.
I'm an in-the-room guy. You got to feel my vibe, you know. I like to get in there. Sometimes you don't even audition. You just meet the director. He just wants to know that, can I travel with this person? I got to be 2 weeks somewhere, abroad.
Yeah.
And is this guy cool?
But actually, I feel quite passionately about self-tapes because so I don't know if you know this actually, but I quit acting in 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
pandemic time.
I hope that's not a
That's a game
problem
changer.
on the-
Sorry, folks. We're going to have to cut this interview
That's it.
short. I'm afraid. I thought we were talking to an actor. Once an actor, always an actor in my book, anyway.
Yeah. And I was with a friend at the weekend who's just herself gone back to acting. And she was like, why don't you? And I was like, I don't know. But the reason I finally quit, there are multiple reasons, but the final straw was that I got a self-tape or a series of self-tapes. And one of them, I got the call on a Sunday. And my agent was like, we need this uploaded by tomorrow at midday.
Right.
And it was involving my whole family. And it should have come to me on the Friday, but for some reason it didn't. And then on the Sunday, they were like, we need it by Monday. Need to upload it Monday lunchtime. And it
You
was
needed to be a mom in it and stuff?
I
with the
needed to be
kids?
a mom with the kids,
with the
having
kids,
a
right.
big meal, recreating an advert for a supermarket.
Oh, God.
So they showed me the advert that I needed to recreate in our own way and then upload it by the next day. And I thought, do you know what? The last one I did of these last week, I didn't even
Nothing.
I
Not
got
even
nothing.
feedback.
I didn't even get feedback. I didn't even get a thanks for sending it, but no.
Yeah.
I just got nothing.
You don't
And I
even know if
thought
they're looking at it.
I could have, it could have been one of like 200.
200, and they went, swiped it right, or whatever the bad way is.
Yeah. And then, so I got this self-tape. I looked at my family and I thought, guys, you don't really want to film this all day, do you? And I don't really want to upload it by tomorrow. And so I was like, do you know, I just can't do this anymore. And
money was probably really good too. So there's a little bit of a temptation on that, isn't there?
yeah. Well, and you want to work. You want to work. But also, for me, I think that in my experience and what I see like coming through PiPA quite a lot is people really trying to make it work for the first like 4, 5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's so hard that sometimes it is just one little thing and they go, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just exhausted. So when you have the baby, it's all exciting and it's new and you're going to give it your best and give it a go. And then after a while, something happens and you just think the cost of this is too great. And the problem you've also got, or one of the challenges as a woman you've also got, is that the parts kind of get fewer and fewer as you get older, or they get, less in my case, they got less interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's different if you have reached a certain level before you have a family. Or I think it's different if you have a lot of social capital or financial capital or other like things to buffer it, things to mitigate it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just you and lots of like pooey nappies and crying babies
Right.
and angry casting directors when you
Right.
turn up in the wrong
Oh,
thing,
right.
you know, and it's tough.
So what's the kind of groundswell shift that's you've made a lot of progress in those 8 years. I know Equity is big supporters, right? And you have quite a few other people on board, and you've managed with PiPA to change, to disrupt the industry.
Yeah.
Have you?
Have you? Yes. I mean, yes.
Where's
Absolutely, we have.
Yeah, there you go.
We have. I
Yeah.
mean, we have. So
Maybe
we
not
have
disrupt. Maybe that's the wrong.
No, I think we are. I honestly, we have. There has been a huge shift since we first started.
Yeah.
When we first started in the 2016, so that was 9 years, 8 years.
Right.
Anyway, we did our first piece of research then, and there was no evidence in that research of any family-friendly practices, none.
Mm-hmm.
No job shares, no flexible working, no examples of someone saying, oh, like, I'm going to give you a call like a week in advance so you can plan your childcare. No, there was none of that.
Right.
There was just family unfriendly practices across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just did a piece of research last year, and that the examples of all of those things and the examples of employers like supporting actors and their staff, employees, and as well as self-employed people is huge compared to what it was. Like before, I think it was like 4%, and now it's 21% of people who responded to our survey said that actually they had received some kind of like supportive working practices. You've got places like the Globe who do family-friendly rehearsals, so that's between like 10 till 4. You know, or there has been a tidal wave of change, and just by talking about it, like you were saying, you know, like asking people about it. How is your family? How are your kids? How are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, there's been a huge shift. It's no longer unacceptable to say, I can't do that audition time because I've got I've got pickup.
Right.
Otherwise my kid's on the
Or
pavement.
my kid's got the chicken pox. Yeah. Or something, whatever it is. Yeah.
My kid's got the chicken pox. I can bring him with us,
Right.
or I can do it another time.
Yeah.
And like, what do you say?
Yeah.
So there has been a huge change, and just there have been external shifts as well. You know, there was COVID.
Yeah.
Which did a lot for, you know, so much flexibility, also like really hammered our industry. And there have been, you know, like the Me Too movement and just general awareness that we are human beings, you know, around like developments in well-being and developments in, you know, just it's no longer acceptable to treat people badly in our industry. You know, we have seen a fair, I'm not saying it doesn't still happen. It does still happen, but it's hopefully less. So there's more awareness around kind of people's well-being. And actually, yes, the show must go on, but to what extent, you know?
Right. Work-life balance. I mean, you see work-life balance is, the corporations are all doing it. Especially, certainly the big multinationals and the big tech companies, for example. You know, they wouldn't dream of not having daycare available and all kinds of family-friendly activities and support for new mothers and time off and new fathers, et cetera, et cetera. But because I guess we're a freelance industry, we're a creative industry, actors are just assumed that they're so hungry to work that they'll make any sacrifice, et cetera, et cetera. We've been backburnered in terms of thoughtfulness about our work-life balance, lack of consideration there. So that's why I was really gratified at the time. And like I said before, it happened at the exact time when I needed it as well. Actually, it was my friend Christy Meyer. You know Christy? No, she's an actress here in the UK as well, and I think she posted, but she became a supporter of you guys and stuff. So it started to emerge, and I thought, well, this is fantastic, because if nothing else, it will also raise an awareness about actors in general.
Yeah.
And who, like you just said, that we're people too. Believe it or not. I know we're gorgeous and creative and fascinating creatures who seem otherworldly to you civilians, but guess what? We have lives and families too, just like regular human beings. And so that's why I thought that's amazing that you have started it, but that now it's evolved. What has it evolved into?
So it has evolved. So we made a conscious decision when we first started that we were going to work with employers. So we could have gone one of two ways, right? We could have worked directly with the individuals, with the parents and carers, or we could have worked with employers. And working with the individuals, we felt at the time that would be putting a Band-Aid on it.
Right.
My problem was not that I was not coping. I mean, I wasn't coping, so that was my problem. But getting help for that isn't going to fix the systemic problem. Like that, I am working on a show and I get my call for the next day at 7 p.m. the night before, and I've got kids or like
no bueno.
Exactly. And I couldn't operate like that. So we made a conscious decision to work with employers to raise awareness and to go, okay, well, maybe you want to think a little bit before the night before the day, like how you want to run this, or maybe, just a little bit of
so when you say
planning.
When you say employers, you talking about going all the way to the top, production companies or casting directors?
I'm talking about all the way to the top. I'm talking about
the big studios.
Well, my background
companies.
is primarily theatre, so we work in theatre,
right?
So it's kind of live arts, performing arts.
Okay, right.
And so by that, I'm talking about your national theatres, your National Theatre of Scotland, Hull, Truck, Birmingham Rep, Bristol Old Vic, all of those organisations. Okay. And in order to kind of drive the systemic change that is required, you need you need buy-in at the top of those organizations, right down, all the way down. Yeah. So it just becomes kind of part of the fabric. And, if you want to do your rehearsals differently, so if you want to have family-friendly rehearsals, that's a really good example. At an organization, you have to, on the first day of rehearsals, get every single person in the cast together, and there has to be an anonymous vote, because obviously you're bound by union regulations. There has to be an anonymous vote where everybody, unanimous. Yeah. Anonymous,
say that 10 times fast. Anonymous, unanimous.
Anonymous, unanimous vote. So that you all agree together collectively that you're going to cut your breaks, but start later and end earlier. So you can kind of do the school pickup or whatever it is. So in all the times that we have done that or seen that happen with one of our partner organizations, it has been unanimous, as it needs to be.
Right.
Because people want to work like that. But in order to get that kind of logistical movement in an organization, it needs buy-in at the top. So we work with leadership who create the culture in that organization that kind of trickles down. And we do also work with agents and casting directors. There's still a lot of work to do, but that we have definitely shifted the dial over the past 8 years. But one of the directions we're now starting to look in is that support for individuals, because actually there's a pastoral support that's needed. There's more of, that individual resilience and, practical support that is needed. You have
Yeah.
organizations doing great work like the Actors Children's Trust, who are a partner of ours. I don't know if you've ever heard of them,
No.
but they are incredible, and they give grants to actors to pay towards childcare,
Okay.
or even towards like anything to do with school, to do with books or home, or they've been one of our kind of biggest champions from the beginning. And they actually, right in the early days, I was doing a tour and they gave me enough money so I could cover the childcare during the rehearsal period.
Wow.
So that I wasn't spending all of my wages
Right.
on childcare.
Yeah.
And that job then lasted kind of 4 years. And I traveled all around Europe with it.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, but I was only able to do that
Yeah.
because I'd received that kind of support from the
Support.
Actors Children's Trust.
No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're
Yeah.
great.
Is that
and
a
then-
charity as well?
Yeah, so they're a charity based in London.
Yeah.
And they have a really straightforward process for actors with children. It's not an arduous application process. And they're hugely respectful of actors. They're one of the few organizations where you feel actually they've really got my back here.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
they're really incredible. And then we've also done a lot of work with Equity. We've done a lot of work with Spotlight
Yeah.
as well. Have
Yeah.
been incredibly supportive. And over the years, Spotlight have done they've provided creches for workshops where we
Daycare.
talk to parents. Yeah, so you can, like a pop-up creche, so you can leave your child there. There's still scope to have, we've had forays into kind of childcare in the West End, which hasn't happened, but there have been a few kind of explorations and stuff. So I think one of the things that we're looking at is our community, the PiPA community, that we maybe haven't focused on for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and bring some resources to them because, there's the whole kind of freelancer issue and the challenges that they face, and that lack of support that isn't covered by any employer. So we're going to look at how we can start to work with that community, with our community as well. So on the one hand, you're kind of driving the systemic change, and then on the other hand, you're kind of bringing resources to individuals so they know what to ask for.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it can end up just being a lingo that you don't really know what's available. You just had a baby.
Yeah.
You don't know about any kind of like job
Right.
shares or truncated rehearsals or whatever.
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah, that's important because I think what happens, what certainly happened with me, it was like game over. 4 years, take a break. And then if you have another, tack on another 4 years, basically until they go to nursery.
yeah.
And you can drop them off. And, that's kind of what happened with me was I was dropping mine off at nursery, then running into town, doing a gig, running back or an audition, and then running back, picking up. And it was exhausting. What?
Did you take time out? Did you kind of step back on it, or what? How did you make it work?
I had to, because also it wasn't normal, I guess, or whatever. It wasn't considered at that time particularly the norm that a male would be in that position, father. So I tried to make it clear, like to my agent a little bit, but very apologetically, which I always thought was a shame. And I still think if anybody's having to do that, and particularly mothers, that's a real shame. That's like, so sorry. I'm going to try to let me see, can you be there tomorrow? Blah, blah, blah. I'll get back to you. Let me see if I can, then go call the neighbor and go, look, can I dump her off with you? I promise I'll be back in an hour and 20 minutes because I know that it takes me, 40 minutes to get in. I'll be in that room for 15 minutes less, and I'll be back on the train 40 minutes, and boom, I can do it. And literally because I was down in Surrey at the time for some of that, and also then in Kent. But yeah, I had it down to that kind of science where I didn't want to burden whomever I had asked, and I didn't want my agent to spread it around that, well, he's a pain in the ass because, you can't, he can't be relied on to go. And that was the struggle. That was a real struggle.
Yeah.
I don't know if I did a very good job with it. I know I lost opportunities and lost jobs and put people off, clients, because I was doing voice work as well.
Yeah.
And things, and I would put clients off by saying, I can't. Is he available? At this such and such time. Sorry, I'm not. I can do this time or that time, and they go, well, at that point, let's just find somebody who's available. Why do we need to work with, replace this guy if he's gonna? It's just a constant. So it was not easy.
And did you have any support with it, or was it literally a case of dropping them off with your neighbor, or because it's the logistical around that, it's the kind of mental, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to get in there? Where am I going to find the?
Oh yeah, no, it was, and because I'm not from Britain originally, I'm not English, and nor was my wife at the time. There was no, let's say, aunties, grandparents, no familial support group available. I did have one neighbor that was fairly generous from time to time, but that was, I didn't want to burden them, and that was kind of the support. That was it. And then PiPA, which I was just kind of following and was just glad to see, but it wasn't like, I didn't drop my kids with you, for example. Although if I had known at the time. Hey, Cassie.
I did. I was recently in Spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Spotlight.
The new offices.
The new office. I was recently in the new Spotlight offices, and I thought, wow. I wonder. This isn't a request Spotlight, just so that's clear. I was just thinking, imagine if we did have an office there, people would just like dump their kids because there were babies in there when we were there.
Right.
And
if they had a creche in there, like a little daycare, something you could drop with some balls and some padding and some teenager, some soundproofing, right? And a little teenager that was just happy to, it was interesting because you find it in a lot of other countries and places. When we would travel, that stuff was available. My ex-wife is Bulgarian, and I remember traveling to Bulgaria and going to a restaurant, and almost every restaurant in Sofia has a children's play area.
Right.
For the diners to go in and have a meal, and you can dump the kids off, and there's like a little teenager that's in there that's happy to play with the kids for an hour, and the kids will get some pasta or something, quick, but they're not interested in sitting down. And you can sit down like a human being and have a meal.
Yeah.
But you can't go do your job. And when she had her baby, she was, given a lot, 6 months off plus another 6 if she wanted, and there was breastfeeding facilities, and we were very into it. And she even became a doula ultimately, and in addition to what she does, because we just became real proponents of, breastfeeding and the ability to breastfeeding in public and all this kind of stuff that was really, which is ingrained in us, but here in Britain it was verboten to a certain degree 10 years ago for sure. So I can imagine, you showing up to a casting, having to breastfeed 1 or 2 kids and leaky. Yeah.
I remember doing a job it must have been Brussels, I think, and I had to leave my baby here.
Yeah.
I couldn't take the baby.
Pumping.
So I had to leave the baby here. So I was pumping.
Yeah.
And I remember I was on the Eurostar, and there was nobody in the toilets. There was nobody in the queue when I went in there. And so I thought, right, I'll just go in here and I'll just like pump in the toilets.
No.
And so I did. And then I came out, and there's a whole like row of people like waiting for the toilet.
For you to...
And all they would have heard is
and you just come out with 2 bottles of freshly pressed breast milk. Okay. Locked and loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a whole thing. Just quickly, walk me through, what does that look like when you go and you approach an old Vic or a major theater or theater production company and say, okay, how do you do that? How do you walk them through the processes?
Well, we have a program that was designed by my incredibly talented business partner, Anna Danailov, who was also a theatre director. She's
Right.
no longer a theatre director. She's one of the best theatre directors I've ever met, I think. Anyway, so she designed this program, and it's basically it's a kind of multifaceted problem, right?
Sure.
And it needs a multifaceted approach to
Right.
solutions. So the program operates on 3 different levels. One is looking at your policies and practices. So that is everything that you need around your
Health
family
and safety.
Yeah, health and safety, but in our case, it's more like adoption, parental leave, maternity leave, paternity leave, and all of that kind of thing. So and then procedures, policies and procedures, and that and that covers your basis, and that covers a lot of the people in the office. And one of the things that we work with our organizations to do is to extend some of that to freelancers. So, for example,
I see that, of course, yeah.
a major London theatre who I can't name, but they offered paternity leave to an actor. I think he'd been in rehearsals for 2 weeks or 1 week, 2 weeks. And then his partner had a baby. And so he had paternity leave as a freelancer on that production. So that's kind of where we're trying to get to with the policies and the procedures. And then we have working practices. So that's everything around how an organization works. And that's much more to do with the kind of the rehearsal space and process. So that is looking at things like, what does a job share look like? An actor's job share, how could that work? I once had a role as an understudy, and I thought it was a real missed opportunity, because actually I was just coming back to work after having a baby, and that could have been a really good way of kind of building my confidence and like a sort of training ground.
Sure.
So looking at the way that we work, truncated rehearsals, so there's short kind of rehearsal periods, advance notice. So just making sure that
changes to schedules,
and just making sure that everybody's got enough time. And then also, just having those kind of check-in points with your cast and crew about their needs.
Yeah.
So at the point of offer, what do you need, and how can we support that? How can our production support that? Yeah. What they're doing.
What was the kind of reception to all that when you first started out? Was it fairly difficult to get a good sort of reception from people or?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it was like, but what? No, it's
not possible. Doing all that. Yeah.
But it was literally, it's not possible.
Right.
We've always done it like this. We're always going to do it like this. It's not possible to do it any other way.
Yeah.
So the way that we've worked has been very much about going, okay, so what is possible? And actually, bit by bit by bit, when we work with an organization, what you find is they try one thing and then they're like, oh, it really works.
Yeah.
It really works. And not only that, but we've managed to kind of get the actor that we wanted. Or, if you're a theatre outside London where it's like historically been quite difficult to get actors, suddenly by offering them child-friendly accommodation, your leading lady, age 35, that you want, who's got a family, is able to come with her family and will take that job.
Right.
So often what we find is that people will try one thing and then they'll find that it works.
See the benefit.
Then they'll see the benefit to that person and also to them as an organization.
Right.
And that actually that innovation kind of creates an energy and is of benefit all round. Job shares is another. is another one. So one of the things that we do, we go, okay, well, this company here is saying no, never, but this company here has done it. So here's a case study, how they did it, what it cost, how they organized it, and they're our partner. So we share that with another organization. So they're able to kind of go, oh, well, that's how they did it. We'll take that and that. But actually, that doesn't work for us. We'll try something else. And then they innovate. So what we have found is that it kind of catches fire, because what we're trying to kind of promote or change is for the benefit of anybody who wants a better work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's not just parents and carers.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked a lot today about parents, but also if you have care responsibilities for somebody who is elderly or sick or disabled, that can be really unpredictable. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I remember when you guys went from PiPA to, which you were stuck with PiPA, but then it became parents and carers.
PiPA.
PiPA, yeah. It was like, we already bought the PiPA name. We got the URL. We spent money on this thing. Now what are we going to do? It's always the way. But it makes sense that you would include that. And maybe in the future, there's even more sort of additions as it expands. But it's people with responsibilities that are very real responsibilities, familial responsibilities and things that may not be necessarily parents, but but still have a right and a desire to work in their chosen field, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have a whole person or people depending on you for their well-being.
Yeah.
And if I was an audience member, like I went to a concert, an orchestra performance recently, and I looked at the players and I thought, I wonder if you've got kids or if you're looking after other people, and I wonder if those people are okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if you are well supported, you're well looked after, because I don't want to sit here with you playing for me, knowing that like somebody's at home, like really having a hard time because you're here.
Yeah.
And
I make sure my audiences know that generally.
Do you?
I announce it like, my kids are home alone right now, so listen up and enjoy.
my kids are on the street right now.
My kids are outside in the rain, suffering alone, so that you can have this. No, I'm just so pay attention, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for PiPA? What's the future? Yeah. Who are you going after next?
Who are we going after? Well, we have been we've been working in theatre. We've started our kind of foray into music and into dance. Music is a whole other beast, because just simply the proportion of freelancers and it has a very different structure. There's the duty of care is kind of hard, even when you've got the big organizations and the unions and the employer bodies, but when you have an industry as kind of fragmented as music, with all different kind of employment structures, it's quite tricky. But then, like I said, I think this support for the parents and carers directly, because what we have done is part of a wider movement. There is still a need for parents and carers, particularly who don't have that social capital, who don't have those networks, that kind of financial help, or who face any other kind of barrier to employment.
Yeah.
By the time you get to my age, there are one of the other reasons I gave up acting is because I had cancer in 2020, and I was like, there's just too much. It's too hard on too many levels right here, right now. And that's what happens when you have the kind of intersecting barriers. If you are also disabled, or you're facing other challenges, or from a socioeconomically disadvantaged background, all of these things are hard enough to overcome, or to kind of get through as an actor or as somebody working in the performing arts. And then you put like care and responsibilities on top of that, and for many, there's not a choice there. Well,
Yeah.
there's an impossible choice, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to focus on that kind of really, what is it that those individual parents and carers need, and how can we bring that to life as a sort of support mechanism? So I think that will be where we go now, as well as continuing our work with employers.
Any designs to take it out of the UK? Spread it globally? I mean, well, basically go to the States and start. Or did I just
I don't
put
know.
a?
I
Did
mean,
I
do you
just
think
put
they're
a?
receptive over there? Are they ready for us?
Well, I think it's an issue for all
Of
actors
course, yeah.
globally and all performing artists, I think. And I think the SAG people, the Screen Actors Guild people, and AFTRA people would be receptive to hearing at least what it is you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then working to somehow, work with you to implement. It's because it's a tremendous campaign, and I think it doesn't just do the one thing, which is to say, oh, well, we, help people go to work by, helping them find childcare, which is sort of the one thing that you would go, oh, okay, I get that. But it's doing a broader spectrum of things, all under the umbrella of raising awareness as to the difficulties, the prohibitive difficulties that face people in the performing arts daily, just due to the sheer the way that the industry is, the job that we do dictates that you need to be flexible, you need to be available, you have to be prepared, at a moment's notice, and work those kind of odd hours and all that stuff.
Which is kind of manageable if there is the support for it.
Correct.
So if you have, because we're working in a bigger kind of framework, right? We have unaffordable childcare, unaffordable, inflexible,
Right.
like regular
Unavailable.
childcare, unavailable childcare. So if there was better childcare support, it would already be a bit easier for freelancers.
Yeah.
If as a freelancer, there was a local nursery, you go, do you know what? I just need to book Johnny in from like 10 till 2.
Yeah.
That'll be like 40 quid. Thanks very much. If that was there. But then you've also got, the employers or the production companies who themselves are under immense stress and restrictions and financial challenges. So what is possible within those means? At the end of the day, we're all just trying to like make sure the show does get on.
Yeah.
And every single element, there's a kind of a chip and a cut and a chip and a cut. So that's why it's a kind of just a bit of give on every side.
Well, that's what I mean by the umbrella. The umbrella being the awareness is being raised. So at the very least, if I was a producer of some degree and never understood, or a job giver, and just never understood those challenges, then along comes your organization and makes me and my ilk aware that those challenges exist, and now we can start having conversations.
Yeah. And as an actor or as an individual, it's not like when I first had kids, and it was like, just don't say that you've got kids.
Yeah.
Don't mention it. Just hide it. Just,
I had to do that a lot.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah. Really, really bizarre and really hard as well,
Yeah.
You're having to kind of, ironically, be somebody who you're not.
Yeah.
Which. Oh.
Yeah. And because, the industry also, especially for women, I think, if they go, oh, you're a mom now. Okay, so you're out of that category that you were in before. Or you're a dad. Oh, okay. Oh, now you're a dad. You're not, it's just the attitude changes.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. I think you feel good?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice to talk to you. So sometimes it can feel a bit like what we do can feel a bit kind of once removed. But it's really nice for me to be able to connect with somebody who is also a parent, and it's really interesting for me that you've kind of watched our organization grow.
Yeah, I think I'm still on the news. You go back and you check those files. I'm back.
I'm going to do you a shout out in the next newsletter.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will be on there, and then we can put it out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You'll get all the.
We can put it out as well, and I just want to say, like, we're not done. We're not done.
Yeah.
There is still more to do, and and I'm confident that we will get there. We're just, it's change is slow. Change is slow, but we are working on it.
Yeah. I think for you guys it was slow for years, but now I'm seeing momentum is picking up, and times are changing. So people are more receptive to this, these kinds of conversations and these kinds of, especially in our industry. It's so much with the Me Too movement and the SAG after strikes that we had, and all this stuff with streaming, and like people are becoming more familiarized, and I mean outside and inside, with what it means to be an actor. And of course the Offstage Acting Project, which is really enlightening people.
Yeah.
But the SAG strike, for example, was just one way of people going, oh, you mean the average actor, needs to make $26,000 a year in America to get health insurance, and most people can't do that.
Yeah.
And if they are doing it, then they feel like really, that's amazing. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, the kind of the recompense that we get, and the struggles and things that we poor struggling actors have to go through to bring you the top quality entertainment that you've come to expect from.
Oh, that voice.
All right, Cassie.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, dear. I didn't get to give you a clap before. Here's the little clap that we give to all our.
Oh, I feel like I should take a bow. It's been a while.
You should. It has been a while for you, yeah. Okay, I'll be in touch with you. I'll let you know how we wrap it up, and I'll send you links and everything. And
great.
Real pleasure.
Good
I dig your
luck.
glasses, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. They help. They just mean I don't get headaches.
I've got pink. I've always had rose-colored glasses, and I've got a new pair coming. And I wish I had them now, because I would wear them and we'd be matching. We'd be rosy buddies.
Really have them?
Oh, I love them. Yeah. See the world through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
But I also get I need the blue light reduction.
Yeah.
Otherwise it gets to be too much. And they look cool. You just look cool in them.
It just gives me edge, effortless edge.
Yeah, exactly. You've got effortless edge. Good. That's the title of this show. I love it.
All right.
All right.
Well,
see you soon. Thanks, Cassie.
Very much. See
Appreciate
you later.
it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. Okay, guys. That was Cassie. Cassie Raine with PiPA, Parents and Carers in Performing Arts. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of extraneous. I think we covered everything, so I'm not going to bore you with too much. Just to say that it was a real pleasure to have her. And we're looking forward to having Jay back at some point. I think he went to an ashram somewhere in India, and I'm not even joking about that. So maybe he'll come back all spiritual and stuff, and we'll hear all about that. So for now, there it is. The theme song to the Offstage Acting Podcast. It's been a real pleasure. We appreciate you checking in with us all the time. Appreciate our guest. Again, Cassie Raine. Once an actor, always an actor. She claims she's retired, but I have a feeling she'll be back somewhere soon on stage or screen. And we'll see you next time on the Offstage Acting Podcast.